Hello everyone and welcome to another video review for digital-delirium.com. This one's going to be a little bit different in that it's not going to be me sitting in front of a camera talking to you about some hardware. This one's going to be of a video game, the one that I just finished Let's Playing, which is Diablo, the PlayStation version. And let's get started, shall we? Let's talk about the story first off. Well, if you're a story buff and you're looking for a lot of story entwined with your RPG, look elsewhere. Diablo is not for you. But for those who appreciate a in-depth world with a lot of lore, there is a lot here, and there's far more backstory to this game than I can discuss in the time allotted me here. It would take me like 30-40 minutes just to go through it all. That's how much there is. So, for those of you who want to find all that out, I did a video where I just sat through all of the text blocks that give away the story, the backstory to this game, and there's a ton of it. So if you want to check that out, it's the very first video on my Diablo Let's Play, and you can watch that. It's called the Prologue, and it's about 40-45 minutes long, but I'll keep it simple here. Diablo exists in the world of Sanctuary, and inside Sanctuary is a kingdom called Kondoros. The leader of the kingdom of Kondoros, the guy that declared himself king, is King Leoric. He set up his kingdom in the town of Tristram, and Tristram is an ancient church that belonged to a group called the Horadrim. The Horadrim were a group of mages that, in times past, it was their job to hunt down the ancient primevals, the demons, and imprison them in soul stones. And they have done so, and below this particular church lies one of those soul stones, and something inside that soul stone is stirring. It is trying to reach out and possess the king, but it finds the king's will too strong to be able to do so. So it eventually gives up, but when it does, it leaves the king mad. His followers are forced to kill him. Then he goes after the archbishop of the kingdom, whose name is Lazarus, and enslaves Lazarus. He doesn't take him over, he enslaves him, and Lazarus leads the king's son Albrecht down into the labyrinth below the church. This is where you come in. You arrive in town, you've been gone for a few years, so you used to live here, and everything has just absolutely gone to shit since you got back. There are demons raiding the town at night, and people are dying. And Lazarus, the town believes he's still a good guy. They led a big mob down into the dungeon to try to get the king's son back. And it wound up being a trap where Lazarus led most of them to their death, and a few of them crippled and broken. And very few of them came back and were able to function normally in society. It is your job to explore the levels below the dungeon, find out what's causing the disturbance down below, and put a stop to it. And there's not that much story in the game itself beyond that. So if you're a big story buff, look elsewhere. This is not for you. Graphics. This game uses a simple graphics style that works well for it. And I'll be straight up and honest. The PC version of this game looks better than this PlayStation version. It really does. If you have seen the PC version, then you know that. And my videos may not be a 100% accurate representation of the look you're going to get if you decide to play the PS1 version, specifically because I used sharpening and color correction to make my videos look better. But it was designed to run on either S-Video, which was the best you could get out of a PlayStation 1, or Composite, which is going to cause color saturation and bleeding together and fuzzy images and stuff like that. Composite is better than what we had before, but it's still not very good. If you have either generation of Sony console that since then, you can play this game either with component cables, which the best you're going to get out of it is component cables on a flat screen, full screen television, or you can play it with an HDMI cable. But I'll tell you this ahead of time. This game does not upscale well. It does not upscale well at all. The graphics hold up pretty well overall, though. It looks pretty, it's colorful, it's dark, it's dreary. It works well for the tone of the game, which is very, very dark in nature. And it doesn't look or animate quite as well as Diablo 2 does, but that's a much newer game, so you wouldn't expect it to. But for being a game from 1996, this really looks good, and that's largely because they decided to go with sprites and a look that's supposed to mimic claymation, I think, over 3D, which a whole lot of games were doing 3D back then. And if it had gone 3D, it probably would look like crap today, but it doesn't. The PlayStation version does have a few nice graphical touches that the PC version does not, such as lighting effects on spells. If you cast a fireball, for instance, it will travel down the full corridor and light up the floor as it goes along. And it also has your reflection as you cross over water in this game. You can see your reflection in the water. That was not in the original game. A couple of very nice touches to try to enhance this version, but the PC version is the way to go if you're a graphics guy, but the PC version might be difficult to get to run. Now, sound. This game does not sound as good as its PC counterpart. You can tell that they dropped the quality of the voice recordings on everything on this. And it has a little bit of fuzz to all of it that you can hear. I mean, anytime that there was dialogue in a game that was important or central to the plot or anything like that, like if I was talking to a guy, someone in town about a quest, I would take the audio out and put it in a separate track when I was editing it so that you could hear it clearly. And you can tell that it's got a little bit of fuzz on it. It's not a perfectly clear recording. It sounds fairly low quality. And if that bothers you, I would understand that, but I don't think that pops up in the game often enough for it to detract from the overall experience, because the experience isn't about the story. It's about questing and looting and killing enemies and getting new items, becoming more powerful. But the sound in this game, the music, is excellent. It's very dark and atmospheric and brooding, which is perfect for this world, and each section of the labyrinth has its own theme that's always very dark and ambient, and seems to give the areas a lot of atmosphere. It really works well for the game. Now, gameplay, there's a lot to talk about here. Diablo kind of is the kind of architect of the hack and slash dungeon crawling type of RPGs. So games like Sacred, games like Path of Exile, games like that, they owe everything to Diablo. It all started here, and since this is the first one, it's fairly primitive compared to more modern games. You have only 3 character classes. You have the warrior, who specializes in hand-to-hand combat. You have Rogue, who specializes in long-range combat with bows, so it's still physical damage, it's just long range. You have the Sorcerer, who specializes in long-range combat with magic. And there are a variety of magic spells in this, and any character in the game can learn said magic spells, so it's not like you have a set number of skills. There is one individual skill per... I don't remember what the Rogue's individual skill is, but the warrior gets the ability to repair items, but he doesn't do it as well as Griswold in town. The sorcerer gets the ability to recharge a staff, but he doesn't do it as well as Adria, the witch in town. Kind of a double-edged sword. Do you want to recharge it yourself and lose a couple charges on your staff, or do you want to go to town and talk to Adria and have her do it and have to leave the dungeon? It's up to you, but you can do it mid-dungeon if you need to. Now, the way this game works is you move with the D-pad. There is no analog control, unfortunately. I think it might have benefited this game, and maybe not, because there's only like 8 directional movement in this game, kind of like Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Only had 8 directional movement. You can't move in any direction you'd like, which is something that they improved with Diablo 2, but X is for attack, triangle is for spells, L1 and R1 are potions, L2 and R2 are for map, and the other one brings up a list of spells for quick use, so you can switch between them. And what spell you currently have equipped will pop into a little bubble that's above the life and mana bars. so that you always know which one you have equipped. But there's really no true way to switch spells very, very quickly like there is in Diablo 2, where you can hotkey spells to the F keys, the function keys. In this, you cannot do that. You have to open up your list of spells, select one, and move on. You can pull up the full spell book and see what kind of spells you have and what levels they are and what damage they're going to do, so you know which ones to use. But if you're a warrior, you're really not going to have to worry about that. The warrior is the easiest class to start with. He is very strong at the beginning, and he doesn't have to worry about enemies too much because he just kind of cuts them down quickly. The sorcerer is the hardest class to start with because he doesn't have much in the way of magic spells at the very beginning. I think he's got a staff of firebolt, and that's it. And he has to rely on finding books in the dungeon, which is how you improve your spells in this game. And the rogue is kind of the middle ground between the two. But the funny thing is, the warrior is the hardest class to finish because when you get toward the end of this game, it starts getting really annoying with how much enemies run from you. Enemies will attack you with long-range attacks, and as soon as you approach them, they will turn around and start walking away from you, and they will walk seemingly halfway across the level before they stop and turn around and fire at you again, and giving you a chance to attack them. And this can be very, very annoying as you get deeper and deeper into the labyrinth. If you want to look at it one way, this is a fairly short game because there's only 16 levels of the labyrinth, and each one is never gonna take you more than an hour to clear out, really, and usually it won't be even that long. Usually it'll be like 20 minutes maybe. So you can get through this game in a few hours, but the problem is that you have to level up a lot to be able to do the next level. So you will play through one level, exit the game, play through it again by starting a new game, and do that over and over again. This does kind of present a problem because while there are entrances to the lower portions of the labyrinth, every single time you start a new game they are closed. The only way to get to the lower parts of the labyrinth where leveling is actually going to do you some good is to fight through the upper parts of the labyrinth. So my recommendation for this is as soon as you see a path taking you downwards, take it. Do not be like, oh, fieldy, I'm going to fight everything on this level, because you're not gaining experience from it. And I mean literally, you're gaining 0 experience from it. As you fight, you are constantly rewarded with gold, and you are constantly rewarded with items. And sometimes the items are good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're better than what you currently have equipped. Or you can use gold to buy items from Griswold in town, and Adria in town. And these will be a massive help to you, getting much more powerful. You'll get more powerful weapons and more powerful armor with more powerful magic properties on them. The whole goal is to make a character as powerful as you can so you can get down to the lower level and defeat the ultimate evil at the end of the game and see the ending of the game. And obviously the 3 different characters are going to play very differently. They don't play it too entirely differently because you always can get the same exact set of magic spells, but one focuses on bows, one focuses on close-up weapons, and one focuses on staves and uses spells almost exclusively to kill enemies, especially when you get down to the lower levels. The sorcerer is very, very weak, but he has very strong spells, and he can get a spell called Mana Shield, which takes all the damage that would go to his health and puts it in his mana, and that is a great help. Replay value. There is a lot of replay value in Diablo, and it's because, there are 3 difficulty levels. There's Normal, and Nightmare, which you can access after you reach level 20, and Hell, which I think you can access after you reach level 30 or 40. Don't quote me on that because I might be wrong. It's been a while since I've reached that level. It's been a while since I played through this game until I recently beat it twice, once with a sorcerer on a practice run and now with a warrior on the PlayStation version. But there's also 3 characters, so you have 3 characters with 3 difficulty levels. All you can do is play through it and gain more powers and more skills and everything else to make your character much, much more powerful and much stronger. And there's a certain addicting quality to that and the constant loot drops. They've kind of given it the label of loot whoring, and I can understand why, but it's got an addictive nature to it. It's a lot of fun. Given that Diablo 2 is a much better game in every single way, it is difficult to go back in time and recommend the original Diablo over it. And Diablo 2 is much easier to get to run. The PlayStation version of Diablo is kind of expensive. It has problems. A, it does not run very well on 64-bit computers, which modern dual-core, quad-core, so on and so forth. Does not run very well on those if you can get it to run at all. And Diablo 2, for the most part, runs just fine on more modern machines. And 2, the enemies running from you constantly is just annoying. 3, having to start new games so you can get quests that you haven't done before and fight through all of the levels of the labyrinth again just to get down to level 10 or whatever to see if you got a particular quest is a pain in the ass. That is frustrating to do, especially for this Let's Play. I would play for hours just to make sure I got a quest, and I'd be like, okay, I need to go to bed, I'll record it tomorrow. I did that at least once. But if you are curious and you want to see a game that started it all, started all of the loot whoring, started all of the dungeon crawling, and it's not story driven, it's still an RPG and hack and slash, Diablo's the place to start. And if for you lore fans, there's a lot of it here. There's still a lot to like about Diablo, it's just that some aspects of it have not aged well at all. One other problem with the game is that you get a unique item and then you start a new game and your unique item will disappear. I don't know if that's 100% true in the PC version, but in the PlayStation version it is 100% true all the time. There's no point in having a unique item, so why are they even there? All in all, I would give this game a reserved recommendation for RPG fans and loot fans. If you like that kind of thing, there's a lot of it here to enjoy, but it comes at the cost of some frustration and some now outdated game mechanics. Thank you all for watching. I'll link the Let's Play in the description below. Please check it out. It would be greatly appreciated. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks everybody. Bye.